And welcome back. Well, now that we've more or less got our UV map all sorted out, we can now go ahead and render it. So let's pop up to Tools, and if we pop right down here to the bottom, it's got Render UVW Template. Click on that and it brings up this dialog box. To begin with, it's telling us that the width is 1024, height 1024. Well, I prefer mine to be about 3 times that, say 3072. So let's go 3072. You can go along with the default settings if you wish. This is just my preference, 3072. Force two-sided, yep. It's the fill now. It's showing that we've got an alpha mode. That's on solid normal. We don't want that on anything. In fact, everything here is more or less okay as it is. We don't want the edges invisible. So if that's fine, what we do is go Render UV Template. It shows us here where it is, and this is 1/8 scale. So let's just zoom in a little bit. Yep, that's good for me because we've got some clearly defined edges there. So that's going to allow me to put in some quite fine detailed work. Right, that's good. So what I want to do now is pop in the top left corner here, and I want to save this image. Now I'm going to save it first of all as a JPEG file. So JPEG there, and I'm going to call this fuselage UVW and save it. Image control, yep, that's fine. Now before I close it down, I'm also going to make a copy of it. So back in Save Image, again as a JPEG, fuselage UVW, copy, and then save. That's just in case. It's an insurance as far as I'm concerned. I have done things where I've been working on it and totally cocked it up and thought, great, I didn't make a copy. And we'll press OK. Well, now that that part's completed, we can close this down, close that down, and let's close this down. We can just shut that down there for a moment. I'm going to keep this in the modifier stack for the time being. But now what I want to do is pop up to our material editor, select a blank swatch there. I'm going to rename this fuselage UVW map. Press return. Now we can pop into our diffuse section, the box just to the right of it. Click on that. Let me just close that one down, go to standard maps, open that up, and now I'm going to double click the bitmap. I need to come up a level, 109 images, scenes, for me, you'll probably have your own directory, and fuselage UVW. Select that. It's now imported it into our material map swatch. So what I now need to do is apply that to our fuselage. That's now been applied. Well, we just had a bit of a screen freeze, but hey, we got it back. Not to worry. Okay, well, ordinarily at this stage I'd be closing 3ds Max down and popping into Photoshop and begin working on the UVW map. However, in this instance I think I'm going to take you into Tools and actually introduce you to viewport canvas. Now, viewport canvas has been around with 3ds Max for a while now, but apparently this is supposed to be the new beefed up version. Well, that's debatable. But anyway, if you don't have a painting package, then yeah, this would suffice. But only if you had nothing else. And I mean nothing else. Not even a box of Crayolas. Okay, let's just dock this over here. There we go. And I'm going to pull my fuselage to there. Well, I know that my file has been saved, so in this instance what I'm going to do is convert this to an editable poly, and that will collapse the stack. Right, now then, we could start the process by clicking on paint here. Now it's asking us if I would like to use the fuselage UVW JPEG map. I'm going to click that and say OK. Now that has brought up the layers dialog box for us. Now what we should always do with this part is actually create a new layer, because we don't want to paint directly onto the background. So let's add a new layer, and this layer, if I double click there, what I'm going to do is call this undercoat and press OK. Let me just close that down, and we can access that again by going to the layers dialog box. This is painful at times. Now you'll notice that we have this sphere, this round object floating about in space with a black dot in the middle. That's actually our brush. Now it's not a flat brush, it's actually spherical. Yes, it is. So if we had a surface which was fairly thin, such as that wing there, it would paint on both sides, both the top and the bottom. Now you'll notice how it's moving quite slowly, and that's not because I'm running Camtasia. That's how it's always done it on mine. It's like waiting and watching for paint to dry. Okay, well, let's have a look at this brush first of all, because if I press Ctrl and Alt and then the left mouse key, we can start adjusting certain things about it, the hardness, and if I press Ctrl Shift and the left mouse key, we can decrease or increase the brush radius. Now it is important to remember that this will stay this size, and if I should pull out and send that fuselage into the background, the brush is still going to remain the same size, but the fuselage is smaller and it will actually paint it all if it fits within that sphere. That's something to remember. So that was Control Shift 2 and left mouse key to adjust the brush radius, and if we go Alt Shift left mouse key, we can increase or decrease the opacity. Let me just come off of that bit. So Alt Shift left mouse key, we have the opacity there, so we can increase that or decrease that. And that's also the situation with any of these tools here, such as the blur, the sharpness, the contrast, etc. So something to remember. Okay, well, I'm going to look for a colour for our undercoat. Now I do have an image down here, and what have we got? Well, we've got a Messerschmitt. That is surprising. Now what I'd like to do is actually select a colour. So this is how we do that. And I'm going to grab the eyedropper, and I'm going to select that blue there. Say OK, and now I can, well, might just lower that down there a bit longer. Okay, so now we've got our brush and now we've got our colour. Our layers dialog, we're on the undercoat layer, so let's close that down, and now we can start painting. I could, of course, press Ctrl Shift, left mouse key, and increase the radius to speed up the process, seeing as how this is just an undercoat. You see there, it's doing almost everything. Now it will only paint if that center black dot is actually on the geometry. So you get the gist of that. Well, mindful of the time, I think we'll continue this in the next session. I'll catch you later.